What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Fit, Healthy, and Most of All Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach KG, and I'm in the house.
This is going to be a killer episode because we're getting a co-host on this episode. We're getting my very own brother. He is one of our coaches here at Colossus Fit, our online coaching service, and he has been absolutely crushing it. He has performed hundreds of transformations through us. He's got a massive Instagram page, over 100,000 followers, crushing his own journey, and he actually used to have a podcast as well. So we ain't bringing on any old amateur here. We're bringing in a pro. This couch gets a little snug. Shout out if you're watching us on video. So I think 3 might be a bit of a crowd here. And I've actually interviewed Jason way back on the podcast, and it was a fantastic episode. It was a lot of fun. And obviously I know his story pretty well, being his older brother. So I'm actually going to duck out, let Kyle take over, and we're going to answer some questions and really get his perspective, pick his brain as a coach to what he sees, and just answer some big questions that we know everyone is going to be excited to hear. So Kyle's going to kick that off, ask him a few questions. I'm going to pop back in later. I got 4 killer questions for him too. So make sure you stay to the end. But without further ado, here's Coach Jason.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the introduction. It's definitely a really good introduction, and hopefully I can live up to it.
Yeah, man, we're happy to have you here, and I've known Coach Jason for quite a while now. I've definitely seen him improve in so many different ways, and funny enough, I remember this back in the day when Josh brought his little brother along, and he was a very young, skinny dude who just wanted to see success, and now it's amazing to sit beside him and see him improve in so many different ways and have him just coaching so many of our amazing clients. And I just remember back, and I'm sure a lot of you can think back to those times where you see that person as a very different person, and now they're so different. So Jason, if you don't mind just sharing a bit about your transformation, your journey, where you started, obviously he was a very skinny guy and he's put on some great muscle mass. So I'd love to hear more about your journey so far.
Absolutely. So when I started, I was probably 120 pounds. I think I was 5 foot flat because I started when I was really young. Like I started when I was 12, right? So I got into the gym. I actually, funny enough, started out working out at this gym called Good Life Fitness, where they had a free trial where you could do 2 hours a day maximum. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. So I was just doing 2 hours a day, pull-ups, sit-ups. I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved it for whatever reason. Right when I got in there, I fell in love with fitness. Now I'm weighing in at about 211 pounds. Similar body fat percentage. Obviously, I grew a foot, a little over a foot in height, which contributes to that. But it's been a long journey. I've been at it, I guess, technically now about 12 years. First couple years I couldn't afford the membership, but it's been a really good journey, and I've just been loving it.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about Jason's journey because I feel like a lot of you can apply your own background and your situation to his, but also we're going to ask him a lot of questions afterwards about his top tips for client success and just overall being our, amazing coach. He's going to be able to teach you a lot that will likely be different. Maybe some things will be the same, but I've got one more question about your personal journey. So having gained as much muscle as you have, let's say 70 plus pounds of muscle over the years, naturally, I'm curious, what has helped you develop and just gain? A little background as well as Jason's hit some incredible personal records, strength training wise. He's up there with Josh and myself, squatting about 500 pounds, deadlifting over 500, benching mid threes. So I'm just curious what's helped you on your journey and what you would share with your top success for your muscle gain and fat loss journey.
Absolutely. That's a great question. I will say, I think having the long-term perspective is probably the best thing. I've always been someone who sees, the small little efforts as adding up over time, and I think kind of trusting in that process has been a really good help for me. I see, something I like to say is that the big picture is comprised of the pixels. So that big picture is comprised of those little things, those daily efforts. And I think for myself, I just really fell in love with the actual habits and the structure and the routine of things with, going to the gym consistently, loving learning. I've always been a really curious person, so stay curious. I think that's definitely a really good thing where, I've always wanted to learn more. I didn't want there to be something that I didn't know. Obviously, there's a lot that I don't know, but I've always just wanted to learn more, to grow. And then also too, though it's sounds cliche, I really just do love comparing to who I was yesterday. And I remember when I started, obviously I was a really little guy. I didn't have a ton of expectation of myself, but I didn't compare to other people. I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as, hey, my biceps looking a little bit bigger. Oh, I'm filling out here. I'm up a pound on the scale. Oh, I went up, a notch on the cable stack or whatever. I hit this PR, and I fell in love with the results. So I would say ultimately having a long-term perspective, and really just getting hooked on the results. I really do believe that when you improve your health and fitness, everything else gets better. And I think I just really started getting into that and experiencing that for myself, and that propelled me to keep going. And now I'm in love with it, and I would never, ever think of turning back.
Absolutely fantastic. And just a little side note here for everyone listening. We didn't share any of these questions with Jason, so we are putting him on the spot. We didn't give him time to think about it, but I feel like that's what makes an interview so much better, is when you don't share everything, to give them time to think about it. But I mean, obviously we've learned a little bit about his story. I also just wanted to share a few different things. Obviously, every week when we come on here for our Monday episode, we share a lot of Coach Jason's transformations, the people he's helped. I don't know the exact number right now, but it's definitely well into the mid couple hundreds, anywhere between 300 and 500 people, one-on-one, fully online. So we are very grateful for him, because he genuinely cares about every single person. Like when we look at our coaching team and bringing people on, our biggest thing is having someone actually care, because there's so many people out there who just want to make a quick couple dollars and they just want that life of whatever it is, an influencer life. And Jason actually cares about every single person. So I'm thinking of so many different people he's already helped. He has tons of transformations. Jack is down over 120 pounds. Just so many amazing wins. Steven's down 80 pounds. Like, the amount of people he's helped is amazing. And I wanted to ask him today what his favorite part about being a coach is.
Well, that's a good question.
And I know there's going to be a lot.
And it's good. Well, yeah. So as you guys heard, I haven't heard any of these questions before now, so I'm gonna go off the top. But that's a great question, and I will say, there are so many things which I could point to, which are so gratifying about being a coach. But ultimately, I really do believe that, a lot of people look at what they can do for a living, for the money that they can earn, or the, status, or this or that, right? And I personally think you can get, time, money, freedom, or purpose. And purpose is the thing for me. I think ultimately the best thing is the purpose, which I get from coaching and just being able to help people. I can't even tell you how many times I've been watching a check-in and I'm literally tearing up, watching somebody telling me how their life has changed. Hey, I've heard I'm off X medication. I got a raise. I'm finally confident enough to do this. I've heard that more times than I could count. And ultimately just seeing the change in people's lives is almost, it's something that almost brings me to tears, and it's just absolutely amazing to see where, something I like to say is health is the lens which we perceive life through, and ultimately, as a coach, I'm helping people to perceive life through a clearer lens and realize their potential. And I've done it for myself. I've helped hundreds of people do it for themselves. And I really know how powerful that is. And that is something that I would never trade for the world. There's no other occupation or way I would spend my time that would be as gratifying as this, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a million great things and everyone's been gifted in different ways. I think something that's, that I like is encouraging people. It makes me feel great. And I know what it does for others. And it's just, I just absolutely love it. So I would say being able to help people perceive life through a clearer lens and live their best life, I guess would be my thing.
That was so well said, and that's what we're here for, and that's ultimately our mission. Like I said, when we are looking to hire someone, bring someone on board, that's really what matters. And we've seen it over and over again from Coach Jason. Like, we'll be sitting there. He's been here with us in Florida for 2 weeks now. He's Josh's brother, and he'll be like, we'll just be chilling, and he'll be like, look at this transformation. Look at what this client just shared with me. Look at this win. And he'll just be so excited about it. And that's truthfully what I like to consider the difference between our program and everyone else's is that's what we do. And even all our other coaches will spend so much time talking about the wins and the transformations and the habits that have been built up. And we're so grateful to do what we do, and obviously very lucky and happy to have Jason here because, like I said, he cares more than anyone. And, to get those results, we need to care just as much as you do, if not more. And that's what I say we do. And especially not to talk about myself here, but to talk about Jason. So I'm curious for the next question. So what would you say leads to the best client success on their journey? Like the top tips that you would have, especially for those that have come in and are just struggling. They can't see themselves seeing the success, but they're going to put their, just trust us essentially. And I guess my main question is like, what habits do they have to develop? Who do they have to become? How do they get the best success possible on their journey?
That's a great question. It's something I think about a lot because I figure if I can identify these patterns which yield success, then obviously sharing them would be very valuable. And that's something I try to do with my clients is I try to tell them these patterns that I see. And I actually have thought about this question before because I'm like, if I can crack that code, I can share it with everyone, right? And I really do think non-negotiables are probably the number one. I never think, and you guys watching probably never think, should I brush my teeth today or should I go show up to work? You don't probably really think that, right? You're like, I just have to. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I didn't need to be motivated to do it. I just did it, right? And that's one of the largest contributors to success, which I see with my clients is, the ones who just say, hey, I'm going to the gym. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be motivated or this, that, or the third. It's just part of my schedule. And it really is something where you might have to fake it till you make it, till you start, or while you start for the first little bit. But once it becomes ingrained in your routine, it sustains you. And you almost you don't feel the same when you don't have those workouts. I like to think of that Snickers ad, if you guys remember, when they say, you're not you when you're hungry, or you're not you when you're hungry. I feel like I'm not me when I don't work out. And I know a lot of my clients feel that way themselves as well. So I will say non-negotiables is probably the biggest one. And then also something else that is really, really prominent that stands out. I'll give you two other things, actually. One of which is proactivity. Being proactive and not reactive is enormous, because you could point to any obstacle. Like there's always a reason to do something. There's always a reason not to do something. There's always an obstacle. There's always an opportunity. We all lead busy lives and we all have a lot of reasons as to why we can't do something, right? But if you plan well enough, you can really plan for anything. Oh no, my protein shake spilled. Okay, you could plan for that, right? It's not necessarily an expectation, but it goes to show the better the plan, the better you'll do. So proactivity is a really big one. And then the third one that I will say is also enjoying the journey, doing it in a way which is enjoyable for you. If you hate the treadmill, why do an hour of treadmill every day? You're going to be miserable, right? I'll tell clients, like, if you really like dancing, dance for your cardio. Put on a timer, play some music, have some fun, dance. Or if you like playing sports, like I play volleyball with these guys, we'll play for a couple hours and burn a lot of calories, and we'll get like 10,000 steps, right? And we love that, and we don't even consider it like exercise for ourselves. We make the workouts fun for ourselves. You got to make it enjoyable, because if you hate it, why on earth would you do it long term? You only have this life once, and you don't want to live it in a miserable way where you're just doing stuff you hate all the time, right? That's not really the way to live life. You got to enjoy it. So yeah, I would say non-negotiables, being proactive, and then also enjoying the journey are definitely them.
Awesome. So that was very, very well said. And for this next one, you don't have to say anyone's name, but I'm actually very curious because obviously when people come into the program, there's some who have 10 pounds to lose. There's some people who just want to be a bit more confident. Some want to just have their life fully transformed. They want to quit alcohol. They want to quit drugs. They want to fully transform. So I'm curious if there's any people that just really come to mind, like someone that you've worked with that you just like, you look back on and you're like, this has been the most life-changing transformation ever, and it really stands out to you. And I would just be curious, maybe not to necessarily share their story, but some of the things that you did to help them transform and really just change their habits, especially for someone who comes in who needs like all of their habits to be changed and like a full 360. I was just curious how you worked through that, or if you had any tips for someone whose life just needs to be fully transformed, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And my brain is doing a sprint right now because I'm thinking of so many different people, so many different great stories. Yeah, I can definitely think of a few people who really meet that category where we just just did a 180 with their really with their habits and saw just immense change. It would be hard to pick an individual for sure, but there's a lot of people who are doing really, really great for themselves, and it's just so heartwarming to see. But I'll say, like, when it comes down to the latter question there, I believe was something about like what are the main tips that I would give for revamping someone's habits and things like that. And for that, best thing I that comes to mind, at least for me, is to keep in mind that saying, though it's cliche, progress not perfection, right? You really want to strive for progress, not perfection. And really, I think with fitness, it is so interesting how impactful momentum is. Momentum, whether it be on a daily level and with, starting the day off making your bed, for example, and how that can impact your entire day, or whether that be on a weekly level or a monthly level. The momentum that you build is huge. So I really just do think, starting small is a really big thing, and just kind of ramping yourself up with certain things. Like, I'll tell some clients who have never done a morning walk, I'll say, hey, get to that front door and open it. Even if you just got to step out and take a big old smell of the fresh air, great, that's awesome, and that's taking one step further towards what you got to be doing. And you get a week of that under your belt, you start walking down the street. Some days you're feeling good, you do a whole 10-minute loop or whatever, and now that's ingrained in your habits. And I really, come to think of it too, there's a really good book, you guys know Atomic Habits, of course. The guys love the book, I love the book, it's a great book. There's a precursor to that book, well, I wouldn't say precursor, but it's called The Power of Habit, by Charles Duhigg, and he talks about keystone habits, which are a habit which essentially inspires other habits. And I really do think the workouts are that for a lot of people. I've seen some people come into the program who aren't working out, who are, not eating the best and things like that, but they get into those workouts and they fall in love with them because of the oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphin secretions which we get from those workouts. And as a result, they fall in love with that, and then they take that pivot of, maybe I should, dial in my nutrition more, maybe I should dial this in, and before you know, you're improving this thing and that thing, and really, your whole fitness is improving as a result of getting those workouts in.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I really like what you said about starting small, especially for those who really have big change that they need to make. Like, sometimes their identity just needs to fully change, and it's just going to start with that first step. And I think it's awesome. Like, that was very, very well said. So I just have one last question, and I'm going to put him on the spot here before our coach Josh comes and asks a few more questions. So obviously, Jason is very well spoken. You hear his amazing stories and his quotes, and just he's heavily into learning and books, and even just seeing him here, he's always looking to learn, and very, very similar to us in terms of overall growth. And you have heard him say a couple different quotes here, and I'm sure some of you have written them down as have I been thinking about them that he had mentioned. And sometimes I'll be talking to him and he'll just have all these amazing quotes. So, Josh and I, we have some that we stand by. You can have results or excuses, not both. That's one of my favorites. Josh's is how you do anything is how you do everything. We all have things. I mean, I have a million, but I'm sure Coach Jason does as well. So I'm curious if there's any quotes that are on the top of your head, putting you on the spot, that really inspire you, that you feel like can inspire the listeners right now as well to produce overall change and just become the best version of themselves. So any quotes that stand out to you, you can have one, you can have five, whatever. The mic is all yours.
All right. Yeah, that's an awesome question. I'm kind of like a quote machine. These guys are like a quote machine. I've gotten a lot of good quotes from them. I remember results or excuses is one of the ones that I love that they say, because it's so true. There's always that opportunity to choose the results or the excuses to determine your reality. But it's a great question. I'll say that there's so many quotes that come to mind for me. What was it? I can't remember his name. Starts with an E, but he says, this isn't my top one, I don't think, but everyone, it's something along the lines of everyone is my superior for that I can learn something from them. You can basically learn from everyone. Don't ever discount anyone, because there's always someone who has something to teach you. I think that's a really great thing. He who humbles himself will be exalted is a great quote, I think. And then as it pertains to fitness, I'll say one that I really like that I kind of just brainstormed off the top of my head one time is fitness is the rising tide that floats all boats in life, and sleep is the rising tide that floats all boats in fitness, specifically because when you work on your health and fitness, every other thing in your life gets better. And then similarly, when you're into the whole fitness game, when you work on your sleep, everything in your fitness gets better. So I really will say that. And I think that's something that we really see with the program here, is that when people work on their health and fitness, really just everything else gets better. And I think that would be my quote, because there's so many good ones, it's hard to pick. But
Yeah.
that's probably my
Awesome. I could keep going, but I am going to take this time to pass it off to Coach Josh, who's going to have some more incredible questions for Jason. Thanks for spending this time here. Now let's bring Coach Josh on.
So a fun question I have, I get asked this a lot, and what ways do you recommend? I love getting different insights. What ways do you best recommend someone who's not getting much protein in their diet really make a change to seeing more protein come into their diet?
Oh, that's a good one. I will say one of the biggest things is starting with protein early is a game changer, because the thing about food is once you eat it, you can't take it back, right? So you can have a real, no protein in your breakfast, no protein in your lunch, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to get my protein for dinner. Well, great. Even if you get a really high protein dinner, you still might not meet your goal because you had a lot of calories earlier. And I think the tough thing with the protein goal is specifically that, you have a calorie ceiling. You can only have so many calories, but you want a lot of protein, and they're kind of counterproductive goals. So my best advice would be get a lot of protein early, makes the rest of your day easier, and have a protein source in each meal. Something that I like to think too is like protein is a very valuable thing, but in small quantities, it's a small quantity of a great thing, right? You can think about a bar of gold, or you can think about a little gold nugget. It's gold nonetheless, but the bar is a lot more valuable than the little nugget. So with your protein, even if you're having, the best of the best options with each of these meals, your Greek yogurt, your chicken, the white meat, white fish, Greek yogurt, egg whites, etc., you're having these great options, but if you're having them in a small quantity, you're probably not going to meet your protein goal. And I think that's probably one of the best things that I will recommend, is having a good protein source in each meal and having a really high quantity of it. Because the thing about these lean options is that they're so lean to the point where if you're increasing that quantity, you're basically just increasing the protein quantity. You're not getting the fats and carbs that come with it. So lots of protein early in the day, lean protein source in each meal, and ramp up the quantity of those good lean protein sources.
And what would you say are some of your favorite sources of protein?
Greek yogurt for sure. I would say Greek yogurt. I have that at least probably once a day. I really love my Greek yogurt. I really like chicken. Chicken's obviously a really good staple, but Greek yogurt, egg whites. I really love my egg whites. Do I have that every day? Protein powder is a really big help. I mean, it's probably the leanest thing you can get out there. So I'll say protein powder is very helpful. And I'd say those would be probably my top three, just because they're quick, easy. You can have them anytime. I guess that's four technically. I'd say Greek yogurt, egg whites, and protein powder probably would be my top three.
Awesome. And now taking it back to a coaching style question, when a new client comes in and they perhaps struggled in the past and you're excited to help them transform and to become one of our success stories, what do you find often the individual needs to change? Like, what's the biggest barrier for them to pivot from being someone who wasn't seeing success to really seeing success in the program?
Absolutely. I honestly think the biggest pivot would be going from calorie dense foods to nutrient dense foods. I think all too many people have a lot of foods in their diet which are really high in calories, really low in nutrients, so they're not feeling satisfied, they're not meeting their protein goal, they're not meeting their fiber goal, they're not really seeing the progress that they want to be seeing. So I'll look at all these options which are basically going to be nothing but calories and carbohydrate and fat, and I'll help them swap to more nutrient dense options, thinking about your veggies, your fruit, your lean meat, your lean fish. And essentially, if you're eating nothing but those good quality nutrient dense foods, you're really going to be feeling very full, very satisfied. You're going to be making a lot of progress with your protein, your fiber, and you're not going to be having a ton of calories. So I really just think that swap from calorie dense foods to protein dense, or to nutrient dense foods, is really where it's at for sure.
Incredible answer. And I'll even share my answer too, because this is such a big change, going from someone who wasn't succeeding to seeing a lot of success. And I even just think locking into the tenets and taking your goals seriously is such a big metric of that. And I just figured I wanted to share my fun little answer to that as well. But we'll end it with one final question today, and I think this is a great one. So what message do you have for anyone that wants to begin seeing long-term change, especially for someone that hasn't had the success they've wanted, that feels they failed achieving their goals? What would you recommend for them?
I'd say, simply put, invest in a coach. It's an easy answer, but the thing is, like, realistically, it's hard to figure out all this stuff. There's a million unknowns when it comes to the fitness journey, like a million unknowns. And if you need help with your teeth, you go to a dentist. If you need help with repairing your car, you go to a mechanic. If you need help with your fitness, you go to a coach, because there's a lot of unknowns. We all need some accountability. We all need some guidance. And that would be, bar none, my answer for that, for sure.
It's an incredible answer. And of course, we see it. When we see people come in here that are struggling, that thought perhaps fitness wasn't for them, they weren't meant to be in great shape, they couldn't do it, they failed before, seeing them come through that and see success is just an incredible feeling. And it's amazing having Jason be a part of that, generating amazing transformations. And he definitely can take claim to a lot of the incredible transformations that we have on our page. And if you enjoyed this, please do let us know. We have our other amazing coaches as well, who are specialists in their own right and all incredibly talented, that I'm constantly still learning from as well, which is fantastic. We got Coach Armando, Coach Krista, Coach Lauren, and we would definitely love to have them on alongside bringing more guests on the podcast. I guess Jason got the special honors where we haven't had a guest in a long time. So make sure to show him some love. You can find him on Instagram, Wilkinson Training, at Wilkinson Training. It'll also be the first link up above. And if you want to start your transformation, DM us on Instagram with the keyword transform. And if you want to put a special note to work with Coach Jason because you loved his energy, you love what he's all about, let him take care of everything for you, your training, your nutrition, your accountability, your oversight, and let him get you to that goal. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Check out Coach Jason on Instagram. We'll see you on Monday for Motivation Monday. Peace out.